Are the Bruins the physical team the numbers show them to be? And can the Bruins beat Iowa at their own game?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, where you can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you place that $5 bet, you can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Where we get started today is we're talking about this UCLA football matchup against Iowa. Huge implications for both teams. Iowa is trying to keep themselves growing under Kirk Ferentz in this, what could be deemed as a lost 2024 season in a year with the expanded playoff. It's an Iowa team that had hopes of something bigger, and they've got a good running back. They found something with Brendan Sullivan, trying to switch things up with the offensive coordinator this year, and they're averaging 30 points per game. But here they are a few weeks since the loss against Michigan State, the big loss against Iowa State earlier in the year. Apparently, if you got state in your name, you're a vulnerable opponent for Iowa. Now for UCLA, a win here in this game, and they can turn themselves into a sneaky contender down the stretch for a bowl berth, right? This is a team that seemed so out of it after losing to Minnesota. So out of it after getting beaten, battered, and bruised 4 weeks in a row, 4 games in a row against Indiana, Oregon, Penn State, LSU, not in that order, right? 2 games at home, 2 games on the road. Heck, they haven't even won a single home game this year. The most amount of miles traveled for a team pretty much other than Hawaii, basically, in this season. And here UCLA is 3-5. An opportunity to get to 4-5. The next win they get, they can creep further up into the standings, go into 3-3 territory, or 3-4 territory when it comes to Big Ten play, and that's much better than what most people projected. Can the Bruins handle the physicality? Hopefully, maybe, possibly, and the answer so far is kind of yes. And what do I mean, can the Bruins handle the physicality? Let's put some numbers behind this. This is a UCLA team and an Iowa team that are both very physical up front. These are 2 top rushing defenses based off of yards per game when handling the run. UCLA this year allows 100 yards per game. Only 3.3 yards per rush, which is not better than the team below them in Pittsburgh, but UCLA does a fair amount of things. Iowa, 106 yards per game. They've played 9 games. They allow 3.61 yards per carry. So these are 2 physical defenses where UCLA likes to pride themselves on throwing the ball a little bit more this year, but Eric Bieniemy and the UCLA offense have figured things out how to run the football, where Iowa's bread and butter, despite, the recent emergence of Brendan Sullivan out of both necessity and injury to Cade McNamara, has come in and done quite nicely for an Iowa team that somehow learned to put up 40 points. But it's Caleb Johnson that's going to be the big man for this Iowa Hawkeye team. So how is UCLA going to stop Caleb Johnson? Well, UCLA, are they as good as their top 11th ranked rushing defense? And I think I've seen the numbers. UCLA has only faced 1 top 30 rushing offense this year. That was Indiana, who then went over 123 yards on less than 30 carries. And as we saw, Indiana came in the more physical team, the faster team, the much, much better team. And they've surprised everybody in the Big Ten this year and are in the first iteration of the college football playoff rankings as a top 10 team and are trending towards maybe hosting a first-round game. If things play out that the way they are, they could even be a Big Ten champion. Who knows? But UCLA has played 2, 3, 4, maybe top 10 teams, potentially, depending on how the schedule shakes out at the end of the season. Now, the Bruins, they found ways to get tackles for loss. It's been maybe some poor schemes. But when UCLA played Rutgers, a team that wanted to run the football. UCLA did their best to stop the opposition. Now, what teams have realized is if UCLA stops them on first down, gets a couple of cloud dusts on second down, 3rd and 7 is more manageable than turning it around and handing it off 3 times for the opposition. It has been much easier against this UCLA defense for the opposition to go and get 3rd and long conversions, but the Bruins have been getting off the field with a lot more regularity as of late. So again, what UCLA needs to do in this game, I think if Iowa has less than 125 yards rushing, all right, so that's more than the UCLA average, more than, what 41 teams in the country give up on average. So if UCLA holds Iowa to under 125 yards rushing, all right, the closer Iowa gets to $150 or more on the ground, the more likely it is for Iowa to control the game clock, to control time of possession. Most likely, I think Iowa will have the firm command when it comes to controlling the line of scrimmage. It's how can UCLA penetrate the gaps and not just be there? Because many times the Bruins have been there to make a play. It's making the play and bringing, whether it's a Sullivan down or bringing Johnson down, whoever it might be, force Iowa to throw the football. And regardless of who's playing QB, I still think UCLA has a good shot to get off the field more often than not. Because these teams UCLA's played as of late, Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, they're not playing pitch and catch as easy as Dylan Gabriel is with his extremely high completion percentage, or a Heisman Trophy candidate like Curtis Rourke, or an NFL-level pocket passer like Garrett Nussmeier. All right, those are some guys who have been figuring it out and shredded the UCLA defense prior. But in the other games where teams didn't have as highly rated quarterbacks or offensive lines that would protect them for 13 seconds, the Bruins have done their best to get home and start sacking the quarterback. The games where even the better teams projected to win by 3 or more scores had decent to more mediocre quarterback play compared to those 3 teams, have not blown up the Bruins defense with spectacular offensive performances. Now, they've had their success, but if the Bruins force Iowa into at least 4 3rd and longs in this game, all right? And by 3rd and long, I'm thinking 3rd and 8. Your classification could be different. In my honest opinion, I'm thinking 4 3rd down and 8s or longer, right? So close to 3rd and 10, maybe 3rd and 7 if you want to add in their 3rd long. And if they can hold Iowa to at most 1 for 4 conversion rates there when it comes to passing, keep Iowa behind the chains, then that's a big key for UCLA. The biggest key defensively, can they show up and prove they're a top 10 rushing defense? That is what this game will be all about. If they can stop Iowa from running the football, using some play action, completing some 3rd downs, controlling the clock, putting up 28 to 35 points, 32 points, whatever it might be, then UCLA has a big-time shot to win this homecoming matchup against Iowa. I already think they have a real shot to win it, but if Iowa pulls away and does what they want and executes, it might not go UCLA's way. Now, how can UCLA resemble this Iowa team? A team that looks nothing like them on offense. Well, more statistically and a mentality than it is what in actuality. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with the FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers bet $5 and you can win and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place on live bets, everything you need to know, all in the one action, all in one place. If you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you want to view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, you can do it. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So what do I mean for this UCLA key of the game, right? Well, the first key to the game was UCLA keeping Iowa, I would say, under the number. I always have weird numbers, but for some reason, something with 125 this year when it comes to rushing yards, that's the total. That's the total I think is realistic. If UCLA keeps Iowa under $125 rushing, then UCLA will win this game. If it's within 125 to 150, that's a gray area. Potential for UCLA to win this game, but less likely. Over 150 yards rushing for Iowa, barring a triple overtime barn burner, then UCLA wouldn't win this game. But how does the Eric Bieniemy offense emulate this Iowa attack? Not exactly, but what the Bruins can do is take a page out of Iowa's book, maybe not be run first, but be effective in the run game, be an effective rushing offense. A few weeks ago, this was an Iowa team that played Michigan State in East Lansing and lost 32-20. Jonathan Smith's coach team with Aiden Childs, who threw for 256 yards, did throw a pick, but had only 8 incompletions for a quarterback that still has been struggling with inconsistency in his first full year of playing as a starting quarterback, and utilized his dual threat ability to the tune of 4.5 yards per carry. Michigan State ran against an Iowa defense in the top 20 rushing defense-wise for over 212 yards on the ground. They nearly churned out 500 yards of offense against Iowa, did Michigan State at home. So UCLA, on a short week, feeling red hot. This is an opportunity primed for what would be an upset in a UCLA game where they are predicted to be 5.5-point underdogs at home. Now, the Bruins have done their fair share. They've covered, I think they're 5-3 against the spread, and most importantly, 3-5 overall, with a chance to get 4-5 to their overall record. What does UCLA need to do? Run the ball. This is where I've spent a lot of time saying Garbers isn't exactly the dual threat quarterback. But the two biggest plays in the last 2 weeks have been Ethan Garbers runs. A big-time touchdown run against Rutgers and an equally big-time rushing play, I think the longest of the season, even though it didn't go for a touchdown, for Ethan Garbers against Nebraska. What happened in both those games? UCLA eclipsed 100 yards rushing. They lost that total against Rutgers because they went backwards a couple of times after, and against Nebraska, who has an even better run defense than Iowa. Nebraska is a top 13 rushing defense that gives just over 102 rushing yards per game. The Bruins gashed them for 140. How did it happen? When you have a quarterback that can make a play in the run game, or maybe an unexpected play in the run game, that has a huge total. Because even though they can get to the quarterback, if Garbers runs for 50 or 40 yards on one play, on a broken play, the last couple of times I might add, those types of plays change games. They change drives, lead to points, and are the sneaky plays as much as the kicked ball interceptions, as much as the nice design screen plays on 3rd and goal from the 9 are. Those are the plays early in games that flip what the script of the game is heading into the second half, heading into the third quarter. And for a team that has been struggling to run the football, you take a page out of Michigan State's book. Childs ran the ball effectively in some limited opportunities. Now, did Michigan State still have a capable running back? And K'Ron Lynch-Adams, yes, he ran for 86 yards. And right now, I think Jalen Berger, you had TJ Harden, along with Keegan Jones. Any one of those guys would love to run for an individual day of 86 yards behind this offensive line. That just hasn't been able to be a real chance this season. But when you combine Berger getting 30 yards, Harden getting close to 50 to 70 yards, Keegan Jones can break out at any moment, mixed with an Ethan Garbers. If he pulls out on an RPO play, then boom, RPO, boom, he takes off, read option, design a couple of those in this game against Iowa, and I think UCLA could take advantage of a big Ethan Garbers run for the third straight week. Now, I think a Kirk Ferentz coach team, what I've seen on tape by now, that Garbers is capable. But it's more those wild scramble plays that have led to Garbers turning himself into a big-time runner, DTR-esque, Brett Hundley-esque, as not just a pure pocket passer like the Josh Rosen days were, but more of an opportunity where he can scramble than being a true runner. I think UCLA has to run to be successful. Not just go overboard with it, but UCLA cannot be a one-dimensional football team. Last two games, the Bruins have been a little bit less one-dimensional. Yes, Garbers was outstanding against Rutgers, and if he plays like he does against Iowa, I would say 90% of what he did against Rutgers, UCLA would be Iowa at home. So what do the Bruins need to do? I think UCLA needs to get over 100 yards rushing. This game is going to be defined by UCLA and Iowa in the run game. It really is. Iowa, will they be quieted down? For the Bruins, can they awaken for the third straight week, helped out by an assortment of things that probably are impossible to predict at this moment, whether it's a fluky reverse play, triple reverse pass that eventually turns into a running play because they fake the pass, they go for 70. I don't know what they're game planning on for this short week, but something that helps the run game blow up. And that's when the Bruins have been more successful, not having to rely on third and long every single time and let the opposition just tee off on Ethan Garbers. No. Take a little pressure off his shoulders, utilize his dual threat, but call a couple of plays for that, and then Garbers has to play clean football. That if he plays clean football, UCLA looks like a completely different offense. When he plays clean football and does not turn it over or make poor decisions, then we can know how much of an Eric Bieniemy offense is a failure or something that needs to continue for UCLA heading into 25. That the more Garbers improves and goes on in his senior year and plays better, obviously that's going to help his post-collegiate career draft stock, whether it's in the Canadian League, in the European League, in the UFL, in the NFL on Sundays as a practice, whatever it is. The better he plays, the more likely it is for him to get a job, and maybe Eric Bieniemy get another job for better or for worse, or at least stay at UCLA for another year. But it all depends on the re-emergence, the resurgence of what was a depleted run game that had not really shown himself until the Rutgers game. All right. Now, what do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, I think I'm going to tell you again, it's the old bet against UCLA rule. Let's see if it works again. Guys, do you ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom? It's time you stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can get confident, feel confident, knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. All you got to do is just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. Again, that's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right. So if you've been listening to these predictions, keys to the game shows, one, special teams is a huge factor, right? I think the greatest compliment UCLA got from the LSU game was that the punter looked good and was really spectacular, dropping the ball 3 times, I think, inside the 10, the 15-yard line. All right. Now, I've kind of joked and said on different shows, all right, maybe, Brody Richter is a very important piece to UCLA, but it helps when you get a couple of first downs and it allows your punter to angle, change the hang time, do something. And when Magani has shored up the kicking woes, the Bruins can kick some field goals and be confident about it. Because the third phase of this football game will be who executes in the margins, right? Is it a fake fair catch signal that leads to a win or a loss for either side? Is it a missed field goal, a big-time buried field goal? Because one of the hardest losses Iowa's taken this year was a game-ending field goal made by Iowa State, which was a huge field goal. I think it was a very long field goal. I forget if it was in Ames or Iowa City, but it was a big field goal that won a game. And to beat Iowa, UCLA has to be crisp, very crisp defensively, flowing offensively, and buttoned up on special teams. This is not a game UCLA can go miss a field goal, shank a punt, and expect to win it. That is the difference between UCLA being, all right, we're doing good, to you're down 10-0, and then next thing you know, it wouldn't be good. So special teams is always an important factor for the Bruins, and even more so in a short week against a stout defensive front who can disrupt UCLA's pass game throughout the night if the Bruins aren't consistent like they've been the last 2 weeks. What do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, let's see if week 3, the bet against UCLA rule works. Again, FanDuel has UCLA as 5.5-point underdogs in this game. So unfortunately, I'm going to go with Iowa 23, UCLA 16. Doesn't exactly knock UCLA out of bowl eligibility. They could still win 3 games after that if that's how it plays out. I just think the Bruins, have been playing well, a little bit lucky against Rutgers, a little bit lucky against Nebraska. They have played very well and looked very much an improved football team just before and right after the bye weeks, prior to the Nebraska game and after the Rutgers game. Now, if the Bruins can't continue that momentum against Iowa, if it's another Minnesota game where the Bruins get up 10-0, look better, can't put them away, can't hold on to a late lead, squander it again, then I feel I would be disappointed, but I'd also still feel proud because this UCLA team would have come a long, long way from where we thought they were in week 3 when it looked like they were a 1 or 2 win team, if we're being honest. Now, the Bruins, as I said, down 23-16 is my prediction to Iowa. This is a big-time opportunity for Deshaun Foster. This is one of those games where, yes, he still needs his first career home victory as UCLA head coach. What better way to do it under the lights on a Friday night? More of a national TV audience tuning in, because those Big Ten football games have been getting good ratings on high school football Friday nights with the Big Ten football games. With the classic unis, Rose Bowl, Iowa fans are going to be there. Let's shut them up. Shut them up. Make them have a miserable trip over here in early November. I'd love to see that. And then all of a sudden to say, hey, maybe UCLA is on the verge of having a better record than USC. That is certainly the case. And you could easily have a better record than USC if you win this game and you go beat them in the heated crosstown rivalry game, the battle for the victory bell. But it all starts with taking care of business week by week, and not committing stupid penalties on the field. Again, one final key is not to commit stupid, boneheaded penalties that disrupt the flow of the game, like 3 unsportsmanlike penalties against Nebraska led directly to 3 touchdown drives for the Cornhuskers. I think Iowa wins this game by 7, but again, the bet against UCLA rule has been working. Let's see if it works once again. And hey, UCLA basketball plays too. I'm going to have quite a few episodes of content coming out late Friday night, early Saturday morning, I believe, with first a reaction to the UCLA football game, and then I'll record my basketball reaction probably right after, and then most likely release that episode Saturday morning for y'all to view the UCLA basketball game against New Mexico with my reaction. So 2 separate reactions coming late Friday night, early Saturday morning for the West Coasters, East Coasters, across the globe, listeners and viewers. Thanks for your support. UCLA fans, get your hands up. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. Like, comment, subscribe. Download these episodes. Comment with your thoughts. Thanks for your support. If you are there at the Rose Bowl on Friday, November 8th, I will be there. That is the plan. Come say hi. I think I'll be tailgating most of the afternoon. So come say hello. I love to say hi. Go Bruins. We'll get an 8 clap going. This has been Locked on UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.